Well, I think already. I mean, even if let's say while the market is quote unquote evening out, there's houses staying on the market for a really long time right now,
Yes,
which is
compared.
obviously terrible news for the market. But it's I mean, it's great news for you if this is what we're looking at, because if your main method of generating business is open houses, let's say, then the longer these places are on the market, the longer your window of opportunity to generate leads is open. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Marketer Podcast. We believe that a successful, scalable real estate business requires three things: a brand that sells, systems and automations to accomplish more with less energy, and lead generation strategies that are built to scale. Here at Inabox, we call this a scale engine. Every week, I interview a different realtor and help them find their next big opportunity live on air by following this three-step scale engine framework. And today I'm with Patrick. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. As I say every single time, honestly, your the ability, or I guess the vulnerability, to kind of come live on air, open up about what's going on in your business, both the good and the bad. It requires some courage and bravery. So like I said, I really do appreciate you coming on to the show. But let's start off. Just give us a high level overview. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the market you serve. Just give us, who is Patrick?
I've been in real estate for 8 years now, and mostly in the Northern Kentucky market and the Cincinnati market. But we're kind of a unique situation here. I could drive maybe 10 minutes and be in Kentucky, and then Indiana, and then in Ohio, and then back in Kentucky. Just kind of a tri-state market here.
Okay, so you've got Northern Kentucky, you said Cincinnati and Indiana.
Yep.
Okay, and then what does your business look like in terms of how it is divvied up between those three states, those three areas?
I'm not licensed in Indiana. I haven't had enough business there. I can refer that out. But probably 70% Kentucky, 30% Cincinnati.
70% Kentucky, 30%.
I've been in the Kentucky MLS market for 8 years, Cincinnati for just 3.
Okay, so more experience than in the Kentucky market, and then 3, as you said, in the Cincinnati market. And I'm assuming that your base is located in Kentucky.
Yes. So my office right here, I can look out my window. I'm in Kentucky, but I look out my window right there, and I'm looking at downtown Cincinnati. I can see the Red Stadium, the Bengals Stadium. It's like literally right out that window.
That's so cool, man. Okay, and I'm assuming, based on the fact that that's kind of how we started out, your business, whether or not it comes from Kentucky or Cincinnati, you'd be indifferent either way.
Yes.
Okay, and in terms of the actual prices of the homes in each area, what are they like? Are they similar?
Oh yeah, very similar. There's some areas in Cincinnati where you're getting $1 million neighborhoods, but that's also in Kentucky. But average price point is probably about 300,000 in both markets.
Okay, and you said up to $1 million, right?
But like Cincinnati, there's $5-10 million properties, and there's neighborhoods in Kentucky with $1 million properties average as well.
Okay, so no. Again, I'm just kind of maybe I'm reading into this, but it doesn't sound like there's too much of a push to kind of attract more of that luxury market. Although I'm sure you wouldn't turn down a $10 million listing, but for you to focus your business on that, that's not really the direction you're thinking.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
There's a few and far between around here.
Okay, I got you. So what is the, let's say, average price point of a home that you would sell?
About 300,000.
300,000. Okay. So that's not necessarily the lower end. That's kind of just like the average end, the median price.
Correct.
Got you.
And it used to be you could get a buy level or something for 150,000, but those houses are 250,000 now.
Okay, so is it the 300? Is that 300 that it is right now, or it was 300 6 months ago, and now it's like what? It was always 300?
Now it's 300. I would say it was 250 average before everything went crazy the last couple of years. So average price has gone up at least 50,000.
Got you. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the transactions that you've done in the past, like the people that you enjoy working with. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, first-time home buyers are really fun to work with, just because the excitement, and you get them from their renting, and you talk to them, and they've always dreamed of owning a house, and they don't think they can, they don't know how. So to get in there and help them get in their first home is pretty rewarding. Okay. And then move-up buyers.
What was that?
we have a moving program to where I can help, say somebody's selling their house and then they're going to buy another house, like move up buyers, like they're going to sell their 200, 300 and they're going to go buy a 400 or 500. Those are fun because I can save them some money on the commissions on the listing side. Something I can do here with my brokerage with Pivot.
Got you. Okay, so we've got right now move up buyers. Let's say people are moving from, let's say, a $200,000, $300,000 home up to like a $400,000 or $500,000 home. And what was the program that you mentioned where you could save them some money there?
I always call it the moving program. So basically, if somebody's going to sell their house with me and then buy another house, like I'm going to get a big commission on their purchase side, so I can cut them some pretty big discounts on their listing side and keep some money in their pocket.
Got you. So in terms of which one you find more rewarding, though, and it sounded like the first-time home buyers is the direction that you like, but you also have value to offer the move-up buyers. Is that kind of correct?
Absolutely. Like as far as just being rewarding, first-time home buyers are probably the most fun, I guess. Rewarding would be the word. But there's a lot more work involved and all that kind of stuff. And then move-up buyers are good because they've already owned a house. You know that they're good to go credit-wise, money-wise, and you can get them to where they want to go pretty quick.
Got you. Okay. So the first-time home buyers that you've worked with, where are you finding them right now?
Well, a lot of them I get from open houses.
Interesting. First-time home buyers from open houses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are these open houses of listings that you also have, or are you hosting these open houses for other agents?
Probably 80% of what I have, but sometimes people ask me to run an open house on one of their listings, but mostly my own.
Okay.
But we have agents that, they have a nice listing, they want an open house, and they don't have time for it. Like the sellers want one, so I'll go help them out with that also.
Okay. So what does that process look like then? Let's say if I come into your open house and I'm kind of just browsing, how do you kind of open that dialogue with me to possibly get the commission, I guess, my transaction of buying this house for my first time?
The one thing that I do, and it's pretty pushed hard at my brokerage with Pivot, is we sit down and do a buyer's consultation. So if I meet somebody in an open house, like a first-time buyer, they have a million questions and they don't even know where to start. So I can sit down and have a buyer's consultation with them, walk them through the whole buying process from getting pre-approved all the way to the closing with inspections, appraisals, come up with a game plan and lay everything out nice and easy for them.
Well, there's something that happens before the buyer consultation, I'm assuming. Like the first conversation, you don't start with a buyer consultation. So what does that first interaction look like?
So at an open house, they come in and they literally have no idea. They just saw an open house and find out they've been renting. They don't know if they can buy or they can't buy. And I just start giving information, give them as much information as I can and show some value. And it's pretty easy to get them to meet.
So what are the kinds of things that they're saying? Like I want to get into the psyche right now of this first-time home buyer. So he or she comes into the open house. So let's say it's a couple, right? So a couple comes into the house. They've been renting. Like, what is the conversation? What kinds of things are they telling you?
They're concerned. They don't even know if they can buy a house. They don't even know what the credit score that's needed. They don't know if they need to call a realtor or a mortgage person first. So it's kind of help them with, step one, lay out what it is and provide value. And most people, they just want somebody to know that somebody's got their back to help them out.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the avenue that I'm thinking right now, it's fairly straightforward and it seems like it would really work right now. And it's kind of just a repurposed version of what you're already doing. So let's say you said a lot of the transactions that you're doing are first-time home buyers from open houses. How often, I'm sure that you don't have the exact metrics, although if you do, that would be cool. But how often approximately does it go from I'm talking to a first-time home buyer to I'm working with a first-time home buyer?
Probably 50% of the time.
That's fantastic. So 50% of the time, a first-time home buyer conversation leads into a conversion of some way, shape, or form.
Yes, because there's a lot of realtors. Some people, they talk to realtors and they don't get any information. And sometimes realtors don't want to work with first-time home buyers because they take a little extra effort. So when I meet them and just show that I actually care about what their concerns are, what their problems are, sometimes people are just looking for a helping hand,
Yeah, absolutely. So 50% of those first-time home buyer conversations lead to you working with them. And of the people that you're working with, How many of them turn into actual transactions?
I'd say pretty 90% of the ones that I have the buyer's consultation with.
Wow.
I'd say we lose that 10% because we can't get them pre-approved.
So basically, yeah.
I'll put them in a program to help build their credit, and if it goes over like 12 months, they kind of lose interest, but they come back in a couple of years too.
Right. So you're basically just so I'm clear now. Let's say if you're hosting an open house and you get 100 first-time home buyers coming to that open house, you've got a conversion rate of approximately 45%, meaning 50% of those people will turn into a buyer consultation, and 90% of the people with a buyer consultation are actually going to convert with you. So we're talking about 45% of all first-time home buyers that come into your home end up purchasing with you.
That's about accurate, yes.
That's outrageously good. That's outrageously good. So the question is very simple. And I mean, listen, we could do all of this. The scale engine right now is fairly straightforward. I mean, we could look into you and who your avatar is and really dig into the psyche of them. But to tell you the truth, we just need to get in front of as many of these first-time home buyers as possible.
Yes.
Right? And because if you're converting a 45%, and I'm telling you right now, if we're going to run a webinar, you're not going to convert 45% of them. But like, let's say even if your number is 20%, which I would be flabbergasted if it was. But if your numbers are 20% of a webinar, like your numbers should probably be about 2 to 5% of a webinar if you're doing it properly, if you're doing it well. But you're hitting 45% of conversations right now as long as you're getting the right kind of first-time home buyers into this program. So you certainly need to be doing as many open houses as possible. To be honest, the other thing that I would do is I don't know if you have a team. Do you have a team right now or anything?
No.
Okay. If you ever did want to get a team, I think for you to double down as a first-time homebuyer agent would be fantastic. And basically, you just get as many agents as possible, running as many open houses as possible, and then you literally just go around the city finding as many listing agents as possible that are busy, and just have your agents underneath you host their open houses. I mean, this is absolutely phenomenal. You just need to. It's a quantity game. It's very simple.
Absolutely, it is. But in the last couple of years, it's been hard because stuff's selling in 5 seconds. So if somebody lists something on Tuesday, it's pending by the time there's an open house for the weekend. But you can do them in the evening and stuff. But yes, with the days on market now, it is harder to get open houses scheduled.
Well, I mean, right now, when the market has slowed down. So again, a year ago, this would have been a lot more difficult.
Correct.
Because open houses,
we'll see how the market evens out this spring and see how it is. But there's going to be much more opportunity and potential with open houses again.
Well, I think already. I mean, even if let's say while the market is quote unquote evening out, there's houses staying on the market for a really long time right now.
Yes,
compared. It's terrible news for the market, but it's great news for you if this is what we're looking at, because if your main method of generating business is open houses, let's say, then the longer these places are on the market, the longer your window of opportunity to generate leads is open.
Correct.
So it's a fantastic opportunity for you to take advantage of the slow market. And it's like, it sucks for realtors. Like, no, it doesn't. So, I mean, maybe it does for some, but like not for you, because you have longer open houses, which means you can have more conversations with as many people as possible. So that's really cool as well. But then the question is obviously outside of open houses, because the scale engine is all about scale. And so while you don't have a team, because a team is going to be a great way for you to scale, because you can then have, let's say, 5-10 agents at any given time going and doing open houses all around the city, or cities, I'll say, between Kentucky and Cincinnati.
Yes.
So that's a fantastic opportunity. But until you have that, how do you actually scale this strategy and get in front of as many first-time home buyers as possible? So my first thought is the first-time home buyer webinar.
Absolutely.
Because what's happening is you're educating them. And as you said, it's 45% approximately right now of first-time home buyers that come into the house, and about 90% of first-time home buyers that you actually get to sit down and talk with. So the reason obviously that the number is significantly higher this is obvious, but after you've spoken to them, is the ones that are willing to sit down with a buyer consultation are the ones that are likely more serious. They're not tire kickers. And so you're basically converting them at close to 100% of the time.
Yes.
Right.
And that's one of the good things that's a marker with the buyer's consultation. If they're willing to come in and sit down for an hour, like they want to learn, they want to know they're serious. If I can't get them into that, they're not serious. They're not ready. They're just out, like you said, kicking tires.
So I don't know if you know this about me. I actually hate the term buyer consultation, because a buyer consultation is realtor term. That's what you want them to have. Really, what they want to have is they don't want a buyer consultation. They don't even want a realtor. It's not that they don't want one. They just don't care about any of that stuff. They just want a home. So a first-time home buyer webinar is let's say the 5 steps to getting into your first home. But I would say even better. I like to use and this might sound a bit off when I initially say it, but I like to use negative words more than positive. And the reason is because according to behavioral psychology, people are up to 300% more compelled to take action by fear of losing something than by the desire to get something. Meaning people hate losing $100 3 times as much as they like getting $100, basically. So if you're running a first-time homebuyer webinar, it could be like the 6 biggest mistakes that first-time homebuyers make, for example. And then basically you just frame the buyer consultation, which you've already got set up, your buyer presentation, into that webinar. You can run a webinar like this, let's say every single month, a live webinar. The other thing is just taking this another step farther. Once you've done your webinar, you can have it set up, have a landing page that somebody can sign up for your first-time homebuyer webinar, and then they click on the ad, they go to the landing page, and then the webinar basically says starting in 2 minutes, let's say, and that's automated. And then it feels like it's live. And then they just hang on for 2 minutes. They watch the webinar, and then right then and there, they clicked on your ad. They watch the webinar basically right afterwards. And then it says, and if you want to make this happen, give me a call. This is my number, and then I'll call you up. And that's how we're going to get in front of as many of these people as possible. And remember, scaling is all about working while you're not working. Yes. And an ad can do that. Okay, so I think the biggest misconception when it comes to ads is like people say that ads produce really bad leads, and like, well, they kind of do, but like it's not as simple as that. And I think the cool thing about this is it's not even like it doesn't matter about the quality of the lead right now, because you're getting somebody who clicks on the ad, and if they watch the webinar, then they are inherently qualified, and if they don't watch the webinar, then they're inherently disqualified. Like it's just a very simple equation. You know what I mean? So there's so many things that you could set up also to see how much of the webinar was actually watched, that even after they, let's say, sign off and they don't give you a call, you can then call them afterwards and say, hey, I know, and you saw in your head, let's say they watched 43% of the webinar. You can then call them back and be like, hey, I noticed that you watched the webinar. What did you think? And they say, well, I actually got to cut off halfway through, but yeah, it seemed pretty good. And then you can take the conversation from there. So I think a first-time home buyer webinar, for me, I know it's a really simple kind of conversation right now that we're having, but I think that that's the best opportunity. So what do you think about running something like that?
No, I would love it, because like you said, it's working when you're not. Like an open house, you got to be there, you got to set up. It's only 2 hours. You're limited on the number of people that can come through. Like 20 people would be a significant open house.
Yes,
but you can hit 20 people with this and over and over while you sleep.
Exactly. And I think that you can even run, let's say, multiple webinars in multiple places. I think the great thing about this is as follows. I really like working with lenders for these webinars for multiple reasons. Number one is because when questions about lenders come up and how it works, you're a team now. So like you mentioned, these first-time home buyers, they don't know if they need to speak to a realtor first or a lender first, but it doesn't really matter because it's a team. Let's say John is your lender. It's Patrick and John together. So you don't need to worry about who you're speaking to because we got both of them right here. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you were to come, well, let me ask you a question then. First-time home buyer webinar, I'm sure, isn't a foreign concept to you.
No.
Right? Have you ever run a first-time home buyer webinar?
I have not.
Why not?
Yeah, I think tech is not my thing. It was kind of like I don't even know where to get started with it.
But do you believe that first-time home buyer webinar is a good strategy if you hypothetically know how to do it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If somebody was to come up to you and tell you, I have a first-time home buyer, a lender, I have a first-time home buyer webinar, all set up, prepared, everything. All you got to do is show up on the day and pay $300 towards advertising this on Facebook. And I'll run the ads, I'll do everything. I just need $300 for ad spend and for you to show up on the day and be my exclusive partner. Would you take that deal?
Yeah.
This is the phenomenal opportunity. Most people would. So most people aren't running webinars, not because they don't believe in them, but because they don't know how to do it.
Correct.
And so the opportunity that you have is, yeah, it might require a little bit of a challenge at the beginning, but it happens to be you are inside of Inabox anyway. So you have the first time home buyer webinar slides, the campaigns, everything already created. And we have our meetings twice a week. So we can, like, people inside of Inabox are already running webinars and it's all set up for them. But again, you don't have to tell your lender that. So you go over to a lender and you say, I've got this webinar, you show them the exact slides that we've created. I've got all of these campaigns. Everything is all set up. All it's going to do is it's going to cost you $300 to $500, let's say, to actually promote this. And you'll be my exclusive partner. As you said, of course you'd take that deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do that with somebody in Kentucky. You do that with somebody in Cincinnati. And let's say you can even run multiple different styles of webinars for multiple different types of first-time home buyers. I don't know if that's even a thing. Maybe first-time investment properties, first-time home buyers in Kentucky, first-time home buyers in Cincinnati. And basically, every single month, you're running a different webinar, and you're partnering with a different lender for each webinar. And now you've got yourself a promo cycle, where month 1, you do first-time home buyers Kentucky. Month 2, you do first-time home buyers Cincinnati. Month 3, you do first-time investors in either of those places. And then rinse and repeat, same thing every single time. But you're getting free advertising. Once you've created the webinar once, it's done forever. And the other great thing is that if you get, let's say, 60 people to your webinar 3 times in a row, then in month 4, when you're about to run your 4th webinar, not only do you not have to set up the webinar because you've already done it, you're using the same slides, same campaign, same everything, but you're starting out that you got 60 people for each of those webinars, which means before you even start paying for advertising online, you're emailing all 180 of the people that came to your previous webinar saying, I'm running a webinar. Would you like to come? That's what scale really starts to look like. And then in a year from now, I don't know, do the math, whatever it is, but your numbers for each webinar goes up and up and up and up and up because you're now targeting 2 pools, the people who came to previous webinars, as well as the people who you're getting new traffic from the actual ads themselves. That's what scale really starts to look like. Do you see how the path in front of you to scaling your business through webinars is quite clear right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
no brainer.
Yeah. So that's really what I kind of want to, what I would want to help you execute. And like I said, I mean, I don't have to tell you to go to YouTube or go here or there to learn how to do it because everything is inside of Inabox. All I would really tell you is that for you, Patrick, this is the thing that we're going to be working on next. Is setting up these webinars, and I'll connect you with some other people that have done the webinars as well in our program so you can speak to them. But you're next. I want to kind of set up a roadmap in front of you to actually make this happen. Before I do, I know we spoke kind of, do you see how this would be a good opportunity? I know I asked that question, but is there anything I'm missing about this, or is this something that it makes sense and you are actually going to make this happen?
Yes, we need to make this happen. I need to make this happen.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to kind of lay out the steps in front of you. Yours might, like I mentioned, be a little bit different because you're in the program. So there's less work that you would have to do. But now I'm basically going to be talking to you as well as anybody listening to this who thinks that they want to run a first-time home buyer webinar. I would say that your opportunity, if you don't have a lot of capital, let's say, to invest in ad spend, because $300 to $500 a month in ad spend is still expensive. So how do you run webinars like this if you don't have $500 a month? Well, like Patrick said, he said it would be a no-brainer if somebody would come to him and say, this is how we're going to run a webinar. All you got to do is pay $300 or $500 a month to actually pay for the ad spend. So there's 2 resources here. There's the knowledge and the actual execution of the webinar, and then there's the money to promote it. So you listening to this as a realtor, if you don't have the capital to actually set up the ads for the webinar, or even if you do, but you want to save yourself $500 a month, because why not? You need a lender anyway on this. Your jobs are as follows. Number 1, set up an actual webinar slideshow to show a lender. So you want a webinar slideshow. Now, while we're here talking about a webinar slideshow, basically what that looks like is a buyer presentation with the professionals inside of your presentation as well, meaning you're just including the lender that is on the slide, is on the actual presentation with you. But in terms of the psychology of a webinar, it's basically what you need to do in a webinar is you need to bridge the gap as big as possible between where they're at now and where they want to be. Meaning right now you don't own a home, you're paying somebody else's rent. This is how much money you're losing every single year on this. You're not getting a single penny in equity, and basically show them how dire their situation is and show them how great the situation could be. That if you own a home, then basically this is how it works, and literally start laying out the values and the benefits of owning your own home. And then once you've made that gap as big as possible, your buyer presentation over the course of the webinar should serve to bridge that gap as the webinar goes on. At the beginning, it feels like, wow, that's really impressive. I don't know if I can get there right now, but that does sound really good. And it does sound like I'm in a bit of a pickle. And then as the webinar goes on over the course of the hour, they start to think, hey, I actually could do this. And then at the end, if they're thinking, hey, I could do this, and then you say, give me a call at this number, they're obviously going to book a call because you've showed them that they could do it. And you say, just give me a call and we'll actually do it. So that's kind of the strategy of a webinar. But anyway, so getting to the steps, your job listening to this thinking, how do I execute a webinar, is very simply create the slideshow that you'd like. And I mean, there's plenty of slideshows online, on Google, on YouTube, or whatever it is, the first time home buyer slideshow. So create that slideshow. Create, conceptually speaking, at the very least, or better yet, inside of your CRM. If you're not using Inabox and you need to create your own, then that's fine also. But create your campaigns inside of there to say, this is what it's going to look like. That when somebody registers for the webinar, a confirmation email is going to be sent. And then an hour before the webinar starts, it's going to say starting in an hour. Then 15 minutes before the webinar starts, we're saying, hey, we're just about to start. Click this Zoom link to enter. And you can then go to a lender and say, this is it. It's done. Right? Even honestly, get the ads that you're going to be running to show them, I'm going to run this kind of ad over here, and I'm going to do this. Show them the whole strategy. So we've got the webinar slides, we've got the ads, we've got the campaigns. You go over to a lender with that, and you say all of the work that is stopping you from running a webinar, because like Patrick said, I believe that webinars work. I just don't know where to start. Lenders are the same. They don't know where to start either, and they want to do it. So you've done all of that work. All you have to do, Mr. Lender, Mrs. Lender, is pay $400 a month, or pay $400 to promote this, and I will run it, and you'll be the exclusive partner. What do you say? As long as you've got a good relationship, they'll say yes. And then literally all you have to do is press play, right? All you got to do is press play, and it's repeatable because you've done it once. The campaigns stay the same. The slideshows stay the same. The ads stay the same. And that is really what a scalable real estate business looks like. So is that your next strategy? Does that feel like your next opportunity to scale your real estate business?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Okay. Fantastic, Patrick. So like I said here earlier on, I know this is a pretty quick call here, but the opportunities seem pretty obvious at the beginning. So I appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate you opening up about what's going on in your business. And I'm looking forward to, I guess, like I said, you're a part of Inabox. So I look forward to not only watching you take your business to the next level and scaling it, but actually being a part of it as well.